Okay, here's the story. Rabbi Yitzchak Berditchev, there was once in the city of Berditchev a very rich man, and he passed away. So Rabbi Yitzchak Berditchev in general didn't go to Levias. However, he asked to be brought to where the Levaya was taking place. And after the Levaya, people were very surprised that he went. So people afterwards went over to him and asked Rabbi Yitzchak Berditchev why he went to this rich man's Levaya, which was not very common. It was very, very rare for him to go. So he said, let me explain to you why. There are 3 different stories with this rich man, that he came to me with a din Torah, and here goes. So the first story was, there was somebody who was not making very good money. And he just couldn't succeed, and he figured, you know what, I think I should go to a different place to have my parnasa. You know, it says Mishana Mokim, Mishana Mazel, and therefore I should leave. However, he didn't know how. He also had some bias issues because they were poor and whatever. So he didn't know how to tell his wife he's going without her. You know, she wouldn't be okay with him going. So he thought, and he said, you know what? I'm going to tell her that this rich man, this rich man who his Levaya was just, this is right who we're talking about. So he said, I'm going to tell her that he hired me for his business, and the nature of the job is that I have to travel, and that every month he's going to pay his salary to everybody, and that she should go pick up the salary. And even though this wasn't true, he figured, listen, she's anyways angry at me now because I can't make any money, and she'll find out, she'll be angry, but B'ezrat Hashem, I'll make enough money to come back that she'll be okay once I come back with this, big amount of money. I'll be matzliach. So, and he goes. He tells her, and she's like, okay, she's very happy. And he wasn't truthful. So comes the time of the month where he pays all the employees, and she also comes. She comes to pick up the checks. She's waiting in line. She comes and she says, I'm picking up for this and this person. And the person in charge, who's working for the rich man, says, I'm sorry, your husband's name's not here. So she starts to yell and says, you're trying to steal from me. She makes a whole commotion. Meanwhile, the rich man who's inside his house hears. So he comes out, he says, what's going on? She says, my husband, he told me that he's working for you and that you're going to pay every month. They're not giving the money. And the rich man tells the person who's in charge of the payroll, says, it's my fault. I actually hired him and I forgot to tell you. Please give him pay and keep her on payroll. Keep him on payroll every month. He's my employee. And it's happened month after month after month. Meanwhile, this guy, Taka was matzliach. He, Baruch Hashem, was able to make some money for himself. And he comes back home with tons of money, and he's like waiting to see, his wife is going to, shecht him, because he lied to her, and he sees his wife is all happy. He was afraid to ask. But while they're talking, she explains what happened, that the first time I went, they wanted to steal your money. They wanted to say that, and then the rich man, he said, yeah. And this guy realized that this gvir went ahead and just gave his wife money that didn't belong to them. And he was flabbergasted. He goes to the rich man. He says, listen, I'm so happy. Thank you so much that you helped my wife and gave money. Baruch Hashem, I'm able to repay you. And the rich man said, I'm sorry, but that money is tzedakah. And tzedakah, it's not my money anymore. It's not mine, b'chal. I didn't lend this money out. I gave it, so I can't accept this money. And so they came to me, he says about Berditchev, he says they came to me to settle the din Torah. The story doesn't say what happened in din Torah. Anyway, so he says that's the first story.
It does say. I have to make
it does?
Point.
Yeah. So in the story I read, it doesn't say.
Story, maybe in the one that you read, but I read a different version where Levi Yitzchak starts off saying that I had a din Torah involving this fella 3 times, and all 3 times he was right.
Oh, I think he was right. Okay. So in this story, it didn't say who was right.
Well, the way I heard it, he ruled the fact that the man can get the money back, but he keeps the mitzvah.
Oh, okay. Here you're saying.
So the rich man was able to get the money back because it shouldn't be
right.
Should be through Geneva, and so he got.
Well, the Geneva didn't happen yet.
Well, I'm saying
right.
no, because The husband said,
Oh, it still is Geneva. Yeah, I guess.
and so
I want to hear the story also.
So anyways, so the second story, but the Berditchever goes on to say, the second story is like this.
Interested in the storytelling.
There was a man who came from a nearby town to Berditchev. He borrowed money, as the way was, right? You borrow money, you buy merchandise, you make a profit, and then you pay back. So he comes with money, but he realized that the money, he doesn't have it, and he realized that somebody must have stolen it. And in the middle of the town square, he starts to cry. You know, he doesn't know what he's going to do. And people are gathering around, and he's explaining what's going on. And this rich man passes by. And there's a certain fellow. A certain fellow went he wanted to buy merchandise and sell, make a profit. Anyway, so he lost this money. And this rich man says, how much did you lose? I actually found money. I just need to make sure that it's the right amount of bills. So the siman is, what were the bills? So he says it was a certain amount of $100 bills and a certain amount of 50 bills, and he gives him the amount it was. So he goes, let me check at home if it's what I found. Meanwhile, he goes home. He takes his own money. He does the exact arrangement that he had. The same amount of hundreds and fifties and whatever it was. And he comes back and he says, "Oh, this is the money this is the money I found. It's yours." And this person was obviously very happy, and he went on to, do his business. Meanwhile, the actual Ganev, who was in the crowd, sees this, and he realizes this guy just went and gave his own money. He started to have hirhure tshuva, thoughts of tshuva on his own. He says, "I have to give back the money." He couldn't handle it. So he goes to this rich man and he says, "Listen, I know what you did. I know that you really gave your own money. I want to repay you." And same thing happens. He says, "I'm sorry. I gave tzedakah. It's not my money. It's nothing to be repaid. I'm not accepting the money." And that was the second story. And the third story, actually, in this book says that the one who's telling the story was he forgot it. But it says it was a similar story to the previous ones. So, and the Berditchever finishes off and says, "Now you're asking me why I went to this person's levaya? Isn't it obvious?" In other words, this person was a big Baal Madriga. Maybe you guys know what the third story was?
I don't know the third story offhand, but I will say that I read the story.
I think in the market he had borrowed money or something.
That was the one they just said now. But I will say that. But I will say that the story is in Zevin Spur Chassidim, and it's a very long story. It's several pages long, which is unusual for the book. But the main argument that the wealthy person makes is he tells the person, in every case, the rich man gave tzedakah, and the person coming back to complain say, "No, I'd like to repay you," was not the one who he gave the tzedakah to. And his argument is always, I don't have anything to do with you. I gave the money to your wife who's talking to you. I gave her a present. So now why should you give me money? Same thing with the Ganev. You didn't want to return the money? Okay, that's between you and the man you stole the money from. But I saw a guy, he had no money. He was very, so I just gave him the money.
You have to return it to him.
So what are you coming to me? I have nothing to do with you.
Nishmas, Rivka, something. What was her mom's name?
Esther Rivka Bas.
Lili Nishmas,
Rivka Esther.
Rivka Esther,
Basra Falzev.
Basra Falzev. Chaim.
We're making
Nobody watches my videos anyway. Guys, now we have to have like triple the views. This guy said nobody watches my videos.
Oh my gosh, no, I saw them.
What? Oh, you watch them. You calling yourself nobody?
Well, no, he's here now, so
All right,
he's
so
not going to watch it.
what's the story about?